When looking at a work of art for the first time, be it in a museum or exam, there are certain steps that can help you to decode, analyze, and access the artwork. Firstly, read the label. Here you'll find the empirical evidence, the only information you can gather from an artwork that can be agreed upon by all. For when we observe and discuss an artwork, we will all see things from our own point of view. Here we find the name of the artist, title of the work, date that the work was made, the materials or medium used, and the dimensions. The artist here is Irma Stern. You may be familiar with this artist as she is featured strongly in the school art curriculum and is of South Africa's most well-known artists. Painter, sculptor, and avid traveler, Irma Stern is a South African artist who achieved international recognition during her lifetime and greatly influenced the local avant-garde art scene. It is only in her late 40s that Irma's reputation was firmly established in South Africa. During the 1950s and 60s, her work found their way into the major South African public collections. The title of this artwork is Girl in a Print Dress. The artist refers to a young female person specifically mentioned in a print dress. Is this worn for special occasions or maybe just to pose in? Were printed dresses something special or something everyday in 1939? This girl is not mentioned by name, so she could be a stranger to the artist. Or the artist could be trying to capture her youthful feminine aspects by calling her girl. What other links can we make with the word girl? This artwork was painted in 1939 at the start of World War II. The Union of South Africa was a self-governing colony of the British Empire then. This tells us about the environment the artist and the girl were living in. The materials used are oils on canvas. This artwork is painted in oil paint, which can create a textured and shiny surface. Colors can also be applied in thin translucent layers or painted really thick like a relief. The dimensions are 69 centimeters by 66.5 centimeters. It's almost a square shape. The size equals that of an A1 paper or perhaps 4 pieces of A3. So this person would appear smaller than in real life. When we discuss the subject matter, we have to look really clearly and make a list of things we see and how they appear to us. I see a young female person sitting hunched over in a chair. She is staring out at the viewer, but she looks as if she is in deep thought because her unfocused eyes are emphasized. They seem too big and also look a bit crooked. They are also strongly outlined. She is resting her head with her chin in her hand, her finger on her cheek, and her elbows on her lap. This makes her look as if she is tired or waiting or thinking. She is wearing a printed pastel blue dress with a belt and a green neck scarf. The patterns are just suggested with flicks of the brush, not much detail. These cool colors have a calming effect and help to make her look like she is resting. I can see the backrest of the chair and the top of the seat. I think it is made of wood because of the texture of the broad brushstrokes. These marks imitate the grain and shininess of wooden furniture. The background is made up of a very bright combination of turquoise and vivid red. The blue areas resemble curtains because of the implied vertical lines, while the red shape is fuzzy around the edges and really stands out due to its vibrancy against all the blue parts. It is also applied more expressively than the blue sections that are painted with a vertical motion. When we discuss the style, we try to describe the mood of the artwork. We have to explain how the artist used objects, shapes, colors, textures, materials, etc., to create a certain effect or atmosphere. This painting makes me feel as if I am in the company of the girl in the printed dress. We are facing each other and looking towards each other. She is bent forward as if she is interested in the viewer, but the expression in her eyes is vacant as if she is not really paying attention. The color combination is very vivid and dynamic. I think that is because the main colors are primary colors, red, blue, and yellow. They really stand out next to each other. The colors are rather exciting, but the girl is not excited. I think that the colors give the picture a youthful and energetic feeling. The painting is not painted very naturalistically or realistically. It does not look as if the artist tried to make the painting resemble a copy or a photograph of the skull. The painting is painted in a thoughtful and expressive manner. Her expressive or painterly style embraces the marks made by the paintbrush and the painting knife, rather than trying to hide them. For example, while there is still a variation in tone to suggest shadow on her face, the tones are not graded carefully from dark to light over the curves of her face. Rather, it is applied in patches of light and dark. The result is quite dramatic. The girl's features and body are also expressive and distorted. Her shoulders and eyes and arms appear larger than they should be, while her legs are too small. So, with her top-heavy body, she appears to be leaning towards you. Her eyes are also very wide and far apart and slightly crooked, which makes her expression so very interesting. She has carefully observed this girl and chosen only to express the qualities of this person that she found interesting. Youthfulness, stillness, and perhaps wondering about the memories or thoughts that lay heavy on this girl's mind. With the composition, we have to look carefully. How are the objects and shapes organized in this picture space? We have to discuss what has been cut off, left out, emphasized, repeated, contrasted, etc., and why. This painting is painted on an almost square canvas. The girl takes up most of the space and fits neatly into the canvas with the top of her head, tips of her fingers, and lower legs cropped out. She is arranged in a seated position with her body folded towards the viewer. Her finger placed on her cheek and her wide big eyes make her look as if she is thinking or daydreaming. The background is divided vertically but unevenly into a narrow blue strip and a red almost square space. The effect is an interesting balance. It is not harmonious but dynamic in its contrast of shape, color, and brushstroke. The length of the blue shape is reinforced by the vertical brushstroke and implied vertical lines, while the larger red section is applied more gesturally. The girl is surrounded by this red fuzzy shape, which makes her yellowish face and blue dress pop out. The girl in the foreground is mostly vertical in thrust, but the diagonal lines created by her arms disrupt it. The dark horizontal lines of the back of the chair and her leather belt, as well as the dark horizontal shape of her hair, create further interest as they divide the canvas and her body into horizontal sections. She is placed on a chair that is not detailed, but suggested through sweeps of a brushstroke. Most of the detail has been reserved for the pattern of her dress and her face, so she stands out against the abstracted background. All the yellow tones have been reserved for her skin too. So it seems to me that all the visual elements were organized to make her posture and expression the focal point of this painting. The material and technique that she used was oil painting on canvas. We have to ask ourselves, why did the artist choose to use this material in this particular way? Oil painting is a traditional medium that has been used for hundreds of years. It is very versatile because it can be applied in many different ways. In this painting, we can see it painted with thin glazes to dense, thick impasto. The artist made the paint behave in different ways. She applied the paint very thickly on the girl. On her arms, there is evidence that a palette knife was used to make textures that shape the form of her arm, effects that you would struggle to duplicate with a brush, almost like spreading peanut butter. The different tones of her skin appear as thickly applied patches. They are not blended to create a smooth surface or even color. The surface of the painting is physical and expressive, and you can imagine how the artist applied the paint. This creates an energetic atmosphere. The paint is applied more and more thinly as my eye travels from the center of the canvas towards the edges, where the paint is applied so thinly that the canvas is visible in places. I think that the artist used the materials very generously on the subject, so that she is emphasized by the liveliness of the paint, while her environment is painted with a much thinner paint, in a much thinner layer. It also looks as if all the thick colors were wet at the same time, so she did not paint over dry layers of paint. This means that she did direct painting, and the painting was completed in one sitting, and did not require waiting time before adding another layer. This adds to the liveliness and energy of the painting. When we interpret the painting and start looking for meaning, we have to firstly consider all the information we have gathered thus far. The empirical evidence, the subject matter, style, composition, and information around the materials. Now we identify the themes and ideas that keep coming up in all these discussions. I think that Irma Stern decided that this girl would make a very interesting subject and asked her to sit for a portrait. The girl arrived wearing a printed dress with a belt and a neck scarf. It was probably her best outfit, as she wanted to look good for a portrait. The artist observed her carefully to decide on how she would position the girl, which colors and tools she would use, and how to express what she felt when she saw this girl. This must have taken a while because the girl got a bit tired and started daydreaming or thinking perhaps about the difficulties in her life. Her glazed over eyes and absent expression must have spoken to Irma. She was so carefully observing this girl, but this girl who was facing her was not there in spirit. She was traveling through her memories or dreams. She must have sat there for hours while the artist prepared to paint her. Luckily for her, the artist painted directly onto the canvas with little evidence of drawing, so she only had to sit through one session. I think this painting tells us much about the relationship and encounter between the artist and the subject. Who doesn't want their portrait painted by an accomplished painter? But it is awkward to sit very still for a very long time while someone is scrutinizing every inch of your being. From Irma's confident brushstroke, we can see that she painted quickly and with energy because she knew perhaps that she had a short time to work before her subject got completely fatigued. I wonder what the girl thought of this finished portrait.